This is Mr. Mackie, and today we're learning about the Civil Rights Movement. Let's go to the 1950s. With slavery abolished in 1865, African Americans were now allowed to live freely in this country. At least we thought. Now, while African Americans were no longer slaves, they still faced oppression on a grand scale. Facing this oppression, they searched for a way out. Jim Crow laws made it to where places like schools, restrooms, workplaces, and transportation were separate but unequal. African Americans had to deal with terrible conditions in their schools, workplaces, and restrooms, while white Americans had it good. They had the best stuff. They had the best water fountains, the best restrooms, while the colored fountains, the colored bars, they weren't as nice. They had constant reminders like white only signs on restrooms or white only signs on water fountains. There were many discriminatory practices, such as suppression of the black vote. By poll taxes, literacy tests, and property qualifications, black people deal with a lot of oppression. Poll taxes were required to pay in order to vote, which meant with the huge poverty that African Americans were going through at the time, it made it almost impossible for some African Americans to even pay the vote. Not only that, there were literacy tests. The literacy test was a test that African Americans had to take in order to vote. See, the worst thing about these literacy tests is that they were set up that African Americans should fail. They made it extremely hard on purpose to make it extremely hard for an African American to get the vote. This suppressed the black vote by a lot. Property qualifications. These were restrictions against non-property owners owning certain properties. These were unfair requirements and made it almost impossible for African Americans to own a nice property, to own a nice house for their family. One of the biggest moments of the Civil Rights Movement was Brown versus Board of Education. Plessy versus Ferguson previously deemed that segregation was legal using the separate but equal ideal. Brown versus Board of Education reversed that, saying that while things were separate, they weren't equal. This deemed segregation illegal, with a unanimous vote of 9-0 siding in the Browns' case. One of the most notable protests was the Montgomery bus boycott. A civil rights activist, Rosa Parks, was arrested for refusing to move to the back of the bus when told by a white American. This led to a Supreme Court ruling, which led to the desegregation of buses. The Birmingham Campaign in 1963 was a protest on civil rights by African Americans. On a march in Birmingham, they were met with police brutality. This was nationally broadcasted and shocked the nation, leading to a shift in mentality in our nation. Probably the first name you thought of when I said civil rights was Martin Luther King Jr. He gave the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He was an American Baptist minister and a leader in the civil rights movement. He was the youngest person at his time to receive a Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. He believed that all protests should be nonviolent and peaceful. He was later killed and assassinated in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Jackie Robinson, an African-American hero, was the first African-American baseball player of all time. He broke the color barrier in baseball, changing athletics for African Americans on a wide scale, which changed history. He persevered through much hate and was a civil rights activist through his time. One of the greatest things we did in our country was the civil rights movement. This movement led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which stated discrimination was prohibited by race, color, sex, religion, or national origin in public places, as well as in employment. The Voting Rights Act in 1965 outlawed literacy tests, poll taxes, and discriminatory voting practices, making the voting practices for African Americans practically equal. All in all, this shaped our country for the better, and our country wouldn't be the same without the Civil Rights Movement. This truly made our country the free country that it was supposed to be.